There we are. So, a bit late, sorry about that, but here we finally are, and this is the Node.js Foundation Build Working Group meeting, the 20th of September, 2016. And present here today is me, Johan Bergström, Rod Bag, Michael Dawson, Joao, and Gibson. Sorry, I forgot your last name. How to work on that. In regular fashion, we also will start with a stand-up. And if someone could take notes, that'd be amazing.
The YouTube link doesn't work.
Okay, great. So let me edit that then. Sorry about that. Okay, if someone could edit while I talk, then
the correct I don't even know what the YouTube link would be, though.
I just found it. It's in the build channel. So if you just grab that.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I have been working on adding new hosts for SmartOS 15 and 16. We're a bit trailing here. Hopefully, we can get some help from Joyan here as well. That was kind of my intention. I've spent some time looking at, since we landed Node 6.6 and started playing around with Node 7 and V8 5.4, we've been running into compilation issues and test issues on both FreeBSD and AIX. So we have a bit of investigation to do there. I've spent some hours looking at it, but I feel like there's a few hours to go, unfortunately.
So you're looking at the FreeBSD ones. I think the AIX ones should be resolved, unless they're different from the ones that I knew of.
There was a few things while you and Gibson were away. I think Rich created an issue about it yesterday.
Right.
So if you have a look at that, I just saw a ton of like stale processes, everything from Python test runners to tests itself to servers. So
yeah, I think things seem to be working today. I think we'll check out tomorrow to see if there's more things stacked up or not.
Yeah, I think in general, just like log in once a day and see if there's any processes, because like once you hit a few stalling processes, that's when you start getting timeouts and stuff.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it.
Okay, cool. And finally, I've been spending a lot of time on my refactor. It's slowly getting there. It feels like I'm rewriting world, which I think I am, but I think I'll open a PR once I have like setting up a Jenkins worker as a minimal proof of concept, and then we're just gonna have to go from there. But it already has a convenience stuff like for SSHing and working with Ansible, so you should check it out.
So it's the Ansible refactor, right? Okay.
Yeah, that's the one. So that's me. Oh yeah, I did some updates to the README as well. And next up would be Rod.
Yep. Raspberry Pi stuff mainly since last time. We now have 14 Raspberry Pi 1s in the cluster, which is great because we have 2 of them for releases, and now we have 12 for test. So when you divide that by the 4 for the parallel test runs, you get 3 for 3 simultaneous jobs. So that's nice, except that one of them is pulled out of action. I'm trying to get an exchange for it because it's got some power issues. But we have 14. Beyond that, I've done some tinkering with a couple of the machines, but nothing worth noting. Really don't have that much to note here beyond the ARM stuff. Who's next?
I'm after you. So I've spent time swapping in the PPC machines from the new production cluster and cleaning up some of the old ones. I still have some work to go on that, but we're now using we have been using the new machines across test and release for the last week and so they look good. I just started deleting the old ones from the CI, and I'll have to go back and rename them. Also working on adding Linux 1 and AIX to the release CI and jobs. And I'm starting to look at a code coverage job. hoping to get to the point where we can have like a code coverage.nodejs.org where people can go to see the most recent data.
Have you chatted with Anna about that?
Yeah, she was on that issue, right? So it's using her scripts as a starting point.
Yep.
And there's also some interest from our SVT team who's been looking at code coverage. And so they're going to look at merging some of the things that are done externally in the scripts into the node build itself. I'm thinking if we could get to a point where there's like a make coverage or something like that. In the end, the CI job would just run that. People could run it also from their desktops. But there's a bunch of steps in there that would have to be integrated in. So they're going to look at that and submit separate PRs to try and slowly remove the external pieces that we need to be able to make that run.
Yeah, I think a very interesting use case here would be comparing master against a PR and just coming up with a increased or decreased code coverage. It would probably be very neat and as part of the GitHub bot. So
yeah, so I think initially, what I was targeting was let it run every night, but I'm hoping that we're doing it in the same way as a job that could just be put in like you just said. So that's kind of where I'm using Anna's scripts, but I'm actually modifying. They were built to kind of assume that the code coverage was the master and it would pull in the node stuff. The main changes I'm making in the job is to take our standard build job so that it thinks like the node build is the master and then pull in the code coverage pieces. So it's just a little bit of a flip, not really much of a functional change to start with.
The tricky part is that it's pretty resource intensive. So like we won't be able to run it on too many commits.
Right now, yeah. So I guess once we get it running nightly, we can see how long it runs and if there's anything we can do about that. And if not, then, I guess it might be, I don't know. I don't know if we'd ever get to the point where it's light enough to be in everyone or if it's useful to have like, a job where you can run it in case you're worried about it. But in the worst case, like a nightly one with a trigger that says, hey, if you drop by more than X%, send out some messages would probably be quite useful.
Yeah, I think last I checked, it took me like an hour, and we can't do much Zcash stuff here, so it would be 2 times 1 hour if you want to like make sure we're doing bleeding edge against PR.
Okay. You're saying we can't do the Zcash because?
No, it's Gcov, so it doesn't really like everything gets recompiled. At least I've tried it a couple of times and it just doesn't really work out.
Okay, it didn't help, right?
No, not really. It's just too much stuff to run through.
Yeah, so I think like an hour is no problem once a night, but yeah, I'm certainly not going to fit every build necessarily.
Yeah. Anyway, just wanted to.
So I'm halfway through. When I get more time, I'll get back to pushing forward on that. I think that's it for me. Joe, who's next?
Yes, I've added 2 release servers with Visual Studio 2015, and I've added a release job that is a copy of our current IOJS release job with some added logic to use the new servers when the node version is 6 or above. I plan to merge this job into IOJS release when we decide to move V6 to Visual Studio 2015. I also created a job that runs daily to clean the workspaces on Raspberry Pi so that hopefully now we won't see any more disk-full issues with the Raspberry. And that's it. Gibson, maybe?
Are you still there?
Might be a mic issue.
Right. The one thing I will mention is Gibson got onboarded as a collaborator.
Awesome.
Which is great. So I was thinking that since that happened, instead of me just putting his keys on the machines, maybe we could give him like regular access to the build machines through the test key. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I'll just update the issue we had open for that to say we're going to do it that way.
We need to reprovision those keys, don't we?
Correct. I think we'll bring that up later.
Okay.
So Johan, have you provisioned those yet in the past, or?
I have an issue open with regards to membership. But
Okay. Yeah.
The plan was to kind of
Sure.
have it there. Okay, cool. Okay, moving on to the agenda then. And Gibson, if you get your mic going and you want to add something, just let us know and you can jump in. And the first issue is inviting Rich Trott to the build team, issue number 497. And the little background we should add here is that Rich has been very active both as a Node.js collaborator and, well, pretty much everywhere in the Node community. And I would say he's nowadays the guy that has best insight into what works and doesn't work in CI, which means that he's constantly letting us know what doesn't work. So I was kind of hoping to get him more involved in the build team and help us fix the problems as well. So I had a quick chat with him and he was super keen to join. Or super keen, he was keen at least. And yeah, that's why I think he should join, and he wants to. So I guess unless anyone has any objections, that leaves us to a vote.
He's very welcome.
Yep.
Cool. So let's just have a quick vote, and everybody that agrees, say yay.
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 Yay, aye.
Aye, yay. And does anybody vote against or abstain? Great. So, Rich, if you're listening and watching this, we would like to invite you to the build group, and congrats. Moving on to the issue at hand, the build group membership reminder. So I had a thought about this for a while ago, and I think, you know, that the state of having passive members isn't, you know, a big deal, but I think our group need to treat it differently, seeing how we actually get access to a lot of machines and trust. So with that said, I opened an issue 2 weeks ago just to kind of ping everybody involved in the build group to see who was active and who was kind of realizing that they weren't active and who perhaps didn't even have time to respond. So I'd followed up today, and just looking at the results, it will mean that a few of us will leave. But I don't necessarily see this as a bad thing. I think having the security mindset and you know, actively recycling our secrets is a good thing, and we should try to have this quarterly or perhaps every 6 months. It kind of forces us to improve the tooling surrounding replacing keys as well. So just to answer the questions you had prior, no, we still haven't recycled the keys. I know that a few people has left the group that shouldn't have access any longer, but I just wanted to kind of find a better way to phase people out, and that's why I opened this issue.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a good idea. It's painful enough that I can understand doing it once. So.
Okay, so unless anyone has any suggestions to how to improve this process, or perhaps you know, automate it, or I don't know. The idea is to.
Is there an Ansible job we could run that would do this, like the key update for us?
Almost. Between me and Rod, I think we have something brewing. So
okay,
we're almost there.
Okay, great.
There was an interesting post last week by Facebook Engineering about how they use host keys to do this on an individual basis. So they set up their own CA, certificate authority, to generate host keys, and then sign individual keys for access, and then you can do simple revokes as well. That might be something we want to explore, and that would make this certainly make this a lot simpler. There we go. Gibson has put a link into that. There we
Cool.
go.
I haven't seen that.
That's just something to look at. It could make this easier, or it might be overkill. But I haven't read it all in detail, but it seems like a decent idea.
Yeah, sounds interesting. I'll definitely have a read. So I guess at least the conclusion of this issue is that we'll give the people that hasn't responded yet a day or two, and I'll just re-provision the keys, and I'll probably ping a few of you that wants to help out. And I won't mention any names, but it'll be a fun Friday night. And after that, we'll close the issue and just let everybody know that we've cycled the test key. Since there's been no departures from the release or info group, I'm less keen to do that. But if we should just have this as a procedure in terms of cycling keys, I guess we should as well. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it sounds good. Yeah, we need to make this easier, and we need to do it more regularly.
Okay. We'll just recycle everything then. Should we do the same with the keys we use for speaking between machines? I mean, we kind of have to, if we should treat it as a full cycle.
That's true, isn't it? Do we even have a list of all of those keys? I've created some ad hoc, and I don't think I've even documented them. So,
yes, kind of. I think I have a pretty good idea of what we're dealing with. I've at least gone through all the release machines, made sure we're using the one key. We have one for benchmark, we have one for backup. So most of them are pretty consistent. There might be something I missed, I don't know. Let's just look at replacing it all then. So we're moving on then to an interesting topic, which is creating a proposal for a list of officially supported platforms, which is issue 488. And me and a few others have been working on trying to get something together. So I'll just post a gist of this now. And we could see that as a starting point. I'm not sure how much discussion we have to do now. I think feedback from the community would probably be good. Let me just post it. I can't do two things at once here, so.
You're going to post it into the issue that was discussing it?
Yep, might as well post it there, and I'll post it in the chat here.
Yeah.
Version 0 of supported platforms. I'll just post it as a gist that people can fork it if they want to change, I guess. So the link is here, and soon in the issue. So everybody that hasn't had a proper read perhaps can just spend a minute looking at it. But I guess the general gist is we've tried to make a distinction between the different tires. So we're introducing a concept of tires, which is basically a correlation of maturity, but also support from community and maintainers, and seeing how Linux, OS X, and Windows is pretty much the majority of our user base. We think that Tier 1 could use that as a starting point. And then most of the other architectures will stay in Tier 2. And then we have finally a experimental tier where all the things we want to in time grow into a Tier 2 or even Tier 1 support, or things we feel like we want to play around with and start testing around with in CI. Does anyone want to add something while I try to work with issues? That's great. I'm just posting into the issue now. Okay. Well, how about we continue the discussion in the issue, which is number. Where are we? Okay. Number 488 exactly, and we let it brew for a bit. We're gonna have to propose this to the C2C, but I think we need a bit more community feedback before we do so. Is there anything we need to discuss with regards to this?
I guess it's just timing. So how about we plan to have it in front of the CTC for next week's meeting?
Yep. I guess it depends on what kind of feedback we'll receive. But I think that's
be good to aim. It has come up at the CTC, just questioning when we're going to get it, and so be good to have a goal.
Okay.
Or we could say by next meeting. It's just that's 3 weeks away, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much leeway we'll do at our actual meeting. So
yeah. I think we've internally discussed this enough that we're fairly confident with the list, and there might be tweaks that come from feedback.
Yeah.
Unless there's anything major that comes up, like there could be, but.
Yeah, I think next week is a good target. Say next week, unless there's something that there's still a raging discussion going on about.
Okay, well, I agree. I mean, we can always have discussions in parallel with bringing in front of C2C as well. So let's schedule this for putting it on the table next week then. Okay, if someone could perhaps update our document, let's move on. We're kind of running short of time, I think. So the next issue is issue 453, which is a tab plugging issues on Jenkins. Since we now have Miles, do you want to hold this?
Yeah, hold on. Okay, I'm back. So we did a little bit more digging before all the European travel that I had to do. And basically, the one thing that's left to do right now is it kind of goes all the way back to our reporter. Our TAP reporter right now is including all of the stack trace information for any errors inside of a comment. With hashtags, it's not included inside the YAML-ish. So at first when we were talking, we didn't want to maybe start introducing new stuff, but it turns out that all the information that we have about time is already included in YAML-ish. So it should only be, a little bit of tweaking to the reporter itself in Python to get that working. I've dug in and started to do some experiments with it. I don't think it should be too bad. There's just a lot of different things that can be reported, so I'm kind of trying to make sure I understand how that whole reporter bit works. Should maybe just do a blame and see who to ask about that. But once we get all of the reporter details coming out in YAML-ish, then we should be able to just use the Mocha Tap reporter module right off the shelf, which has a JUnit reporter. Might be an XUnit, but either way, they're compatible. And so we should be able to use this off-the-shelf module and do some experiments with the JUnit reporter inside of Travis. Or Jenkins. So once we have that running, then we should be able to see results fairly quickly. There may be a little bit of tweaking that needs to happen under the hood. The main thing that we may need to do is make some changes to the reporter output itself. So I know, like, for example, the way that we're reporting the time for each test right now is not exactly standard, but I'm not sure how far off of what's currently coming out we want to touch. Be actually very interested in hearing from Rod in particular, just thoughts on the semveriness of our reporter and changing things in there and what's appropriate and not appropriate.
Yeah, I can add my thoughts. So, I mean, if we create a new target, a new output target, we can always interchange. I mean, at the end of the day, we're looking to have consistency in what Jenkins knows about the test output, right? So I think that should be fine.
I would definitely think it. If we completely change the output of the test reporter, it would affect people. Those should be similar major. So
a new output target, a new output reporter, though, would be fine.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So if we're going to do this, we should probably consider a new output reporter target and not touch the current tap one.
How different is it?
It's not that different. It's just, so as we have it right now, we could avoid doing major changes, but so I ended up talking to Isaac a bit about this and other people who I got into the tap Slack. And what we're doing as far as reporting the stack traces are not tap standard. So tap treats all of those comments as throwaway and not as being part of like whatever test was running prior to that. So our reporters are just working because they just work, but it's not standard tap that we're outputting. So we should be at the very least putting all of our stack trace information into the YAML-ish instead of putting it into the comments. But that does mean, and I think Michael will be like, internally at IBM, we have a pretty massive infrastructure for testing and automating and digging into that. If we change this, we should definitely at the very least be doing testing at IBM to see if that's affecting our ability to monitor stuff. But it's kind of one of those things that's working but shouldn't be, or is working but isn't exactly correct. But the correct behavior would be to have all of the stuff in YAML-ish. But that's implying that everything's tap 13 instead of tap 12. So I think but the weird part is all of our timer information is already in YAML-ish, which means that we're not doing tap 12 because tap 12 doesn't support YAML-ish at all. So we've kind of got this like weird halfway point thing going on, which is a little confusing.
Yeah.
Just a quick question. YAML-ish is YAML, but not quite, or something?
Yeah, as far as I know, in the tap spec, the parts that, like all the extra information that's included in YAML is using YAML-ish, which I'm guessing is YAML-ish. It's kind
sort
of
of
YAML.
what I'm asking. Like, how is it really close to YAML, but not quite, or something? Like, is that?
I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Okay.
But I do know that like all the off-the-shelf parsers are, designed to parse this.
I think it's a subset. I haven't read the full parser, but like YAML in itself can embed all kinds of stuff. But I think YAML-ish is just a bit more simplistic.
Okay, that makes sense.
So I think for now it's probably introduce a new reporter, but with the aim of removing the old one in a semver major. I think that would be the way to go here, because we don't really want two very similar reporters hanging around.
No.
Yeah,
it sounds like the right thing to do.
So just to clarify that we're all on the same page, should we have the reporter in Python always, like, should we just do a new tap reporter and have the new tap reporter follow this new outline, or should we also consider just writing just an inline XML reporter for the JUnit stuff?
Yeah, so that's kind of where I started, at least, looking at doing JUnit straight from Python. And the reason I changed my one was that we have so many other tools and so many other suites like libuv and all the other stuff that, for me, it made more sense to do a converter, because then we can just convert all of the outputs instead of just having to do it one by one.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, that's a question for the Python people. If XML is not that nice in Python, like if it was as bad as writing XML in JavaScript, then I wouldn't bother. But it's really a matter of comfort level.
Yeah,
I am sorry. Go for it.
No, I was just saying that if you look at the Mocha stuff, they actually just do string, like string and pattern matching, and just generate based on string templates. So
yeah, let's not do that. The XML is one of those things that you really want to get right, and having a library to construct it for you is ideal.
Yeah, so there are parsers in Python like that uses E3 and stuff. But I was just thinking, like, if we just do it for Node, we'd have to tell libuv to change their tab13 output producer to JUnit 1 and so on and so forth. So that's
a good point.
The only thing that we may run into, and maybe we should do this first, I'll go and take a look at all the different reporters that we use. So it's really just like libuv, our linter, and our main reporter, I think, that we have to deal with. But maybe we can hop back in the issue to just list these. We should probably audit the tap output of all of them and make sure that they're all going to give us the information that we need before we move forward with this. But I personally feel comfortable enough with my Python chops to get a new reporter out. It's just a matter of having the time to put in.
Yeah, so I've had a look at most of them. And I think, if we become a bit more strict in terms of what we accept and say tab 13 or no, I think that would be an achievable goal for all sub-projects, at least the ones that aren't there, which would be Node.js. And I actually think libuv does tab 13 already. So like tab 13 and we would be there.
Okay, excellent.
Okay, so just to summarize, the idea here is to create a new tab output. And I mean, it makes it simpler because the one we have now is tab 12-ish. So, creating a tab 13 output generator and then having a Node or JavaScript that then converts it into JUnit would be the path forward then.
Yeah, I also think that it would be good to do some tests. I mean, the fact that we're getting the stack traces from the comments inside of the Jenkins tap plugin kind of gives me a bit of a gut feeling that if we put the error stuff into YAMLish, it may be almost Semver patch-esque if it's not breaking. So it'd be good to maybe just have a comparison and take a look at it and just see if it really is going to be experience changing between the two outputs. And I can collaborate with Michael on that on the side to just make sure that everything makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to drop off because I have another meeting. Before I go, though, I'll volunteer to take the Google Doc and convert it to a PR for the minutes, unless anybody else wants to do it.
Perfect, thanks.
Okay, talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, well, since we're running out of time, we have 2 more issues to go. First one is how can a project qualify for access to the build infrastructure? And we've had this for a while. The reason I kept it there this week was because I think Rod commented in between these meetings, but we haven't had much other than that. So I just wanted to give Rod a chance to add if there was something special.
No, I have nothing to add.
Cool. Should we perhaps remove it from the agenda for now until we figure something out?
Yeah. I think so. I think the way it's going is simply that projects are moving into the org, and that makes it easier. And anything else is special case, like libuv.
Cool. Okay, moving on. Final issue, which is the rsync endpoint to mirror the releases enhancement. And the reason we keep having this is because we've actually made progress. So the changes from last meeting is that Michael has created a suggestive news item that we will post on Node.js org and perhaps email to a few people that needs to know. So if you guys could have a look at that. It's issue number, where are we? Issue number, can't find it. Oh, well, it's in there somewhere. Sorry about that. Oh, here we go. Sorry, issue number 484. So have a look at that and see if there's any change you want to do. Otherwise, I think we should promote that, because we're moving into, I think on a month from now, we will start doing the tests, or a month and a half. So we should try and get this text out. I guess one thing we should have a quick update on is the OS X build bots. I removed it from the agenda, seeing how it's just been following us forever. It feels like we've made some progress, but just having it and recurring item just felt wrong. But Rod, do you want to perhaps take the mic?
Look, I said last time that I would get it resolved, but it's close to being resolved. It's we just are waiting for the group that has suggested putting up resources to get back to us with a final yay or nay. Sorry. But the current status is that we have someone suggesting that they might donate the hardware, leaving us with the ongoing monthly hosting cost, which is a pretty good deal. The hosting cost is it's like $110 a month, I think. That could be something that the foundation can shoulder, and possibly we can look for someone else to cover that even. So we're probably going to be moving forward with that, as long as they come back and say that their suits are going to sign off on that spend. So that's it. It's it'll be resolved soon.
Which is awesome news. Okay. So unless anyone else wants to add anything, I think we'll call it a day.
Sounds
Cool.
good.
We're pretty tired. Let's move on and see you guys next time. The next meeting will be, let's see, October 11th. I will try, at least try, like I always, to create an issue about this a few weeks ahead of time, at least one. See how we go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.